Hello. Hello. Good afternoon to all of you. Hello. Sir, I hope it is going on live. Any information can you provide on this? YouTube live? Yes. Actually, in the previous session, what we have studied, that we must be able to understand back. In this, no other participant is there except myself and this Open University Study Center. I request the Study Center people to check out whether we logged in the correct login or not. Hello. So, nine 93020547062 2020547052 12112022. Correct only we are going. 2022 93020547052. In this we have to log in. Okay, good afternoon to all of you, those who are having online. Good afternoon. The previous class, already we have discussed more about the various aspects relating to this demand, and now we have to start about the concept of demand. In the previous session, we have discussed about the subject matter of economics and how this particular subject matter will help us to understand economics, and all basic definitions of economics is given. Adam Smith definition and all. Then characteristics of wants. What is the characteristics of wants? That is also explained. and then basic concepts of economics is given to you in the form of microeconomics and macroeconomics. Then where we have studied about positive and normative economics. Then we have studied about the various business form, how the managerial decision making helps us to understand about the decision making process. When we are telling about the managerial economics, there is application of economic theory with the business practices and how these business practices are helpful, how this managerial economics can be used for the purpose of business practice, that is production analysis, cost analysis, and so on. Then after that, we have clearly explained about the we have clearly explained about the this one objectives of the business. Objectives of the business. Then what are the various other objectives that we have understood about the profit maximization objective, sales maximization, sales maximization, and sales quantity, there is sales maximization, size maximization, wealth maximization theory, and then we have completed about the various aspects related to other theories like other theories like wealth maximization of the long range survival, why the business will go for a long range, and size of the size maximization, managerial utility maximization, and all. So these aspects that we have given. So as a matter of fact, every firm will try to make out the various objectives. What are the various objectives of the firm? Then in the case of firm, as I told you, firm is a single business entity which controls the various organizational units. They will pool up the resources, and after pooling up of the resources, they will go for the production activity with the various objectives. When every firm will have different objectives, with that objectives already we have summarized in the previous session, the profit maximization objective, wealth maximization, sales maximization, size maximization, and so on and so forth. Then after that, in the unit number 3, we have completed about the business decision making process. What is the decision making process? How it is done, and all these aspects that we have understood about this one. Decision making is basically talking about taking a one decision or choosing one better alternative out of the various available alternatives, and one best alternative out of the various alternatives that are available. So choosing one activity out of the various activities. In this process of decision making, one is identifying the problem. Whereas first one is that identify the problem. What are the various steps in the decision making process in that identifying the problem? So what is the problem that we have to identify, and then analyze the problem basically. When once we have analyzed it, once we are able to analyze the problem, then basically we will go for the collection of necessary information on that. So when a problem is selected or when the problem is chosen, then definitely we have to select the necessary aspects in this. Just 1 second, please be on the line. I will switch off the light. When we are talking, yes, now it's comfortable. When we are talking about this particular process of the decision making process, as and when we are talking about a decision, collection of necessary information, and how best you are able to make collect the best information out of the various available alternatives that are to be considerately identified. Then what are the resources that are required, and what are the constraints that are there in the particular decision making process. We have to identify that whenever there is research, whenever you have taken decision. So for example, introduction of a new product into the market, in such a case, what is the new, when you are introducing a new product into the market, then you have to identify what are the constraints and what are the resources that are required and so on. Then develop a criteria or judge criteria for the purpose of how you can judge a particular course of action. So in this particular phenomena, what are the various characteristics or what are the various conditions that are to be mentioned, or what are the various basis, on what basis I can select one best alternative, that is also to be identified. After that conversion, actually, then we have to understand about generation or development of alternatives. Various alternatives are to be developed in this process. Which is the best alternative, that is evaluated on the basis of financial terms, on the basis of technical terms, and on the basis of market viability, and so on. When you are choosing one best alternative, it must be suitable with all other alternatives. Financially, a particular say, alternative must be good enough. Then marketing, in case of marketing also, you must be able to have a good marketing capability of a particular product. Then at the last, you have to understand that the product must be given a good guaranteed returns on that. That is called financial viability. In keeping in all these aspects into consideration, you must choose one particular decision. So before taking a decision, you must be able to understand what is the information on that, what is the choice out of that, what are the resources that are required, what are the constraints that are needed, and all these aspects must be clearly understandable in this particular manner. After selecting one best alternative, evaluate the alternative and how better it is. That is called as cost benefit analysis we have to carry out. So how much is the cost that we are incurring, how much benefit that you are able to make out, and these aspects are to be identified in this particular aspect. When we have taken this one, when we have taken this one, when we have taken the second alternative, automatically we have to when we fix up to one best alternative, that decision will be permanent. When you are taking this particular decision, when once it is chosen, then you have to implement that particular decision. When decision is implemented, what are the various resultant factors that you have to follow? So in the process of decision making, there are so many other economic aspects that we have to understand, the various economic concepts which will help for the decision making process. What are the various economic aspects that help with the purpose of decision making process? Let us see now. So in the page number 49, it is clearly mentioned that one is called as opportunity cost concept. What is opportunity cost concept? That is called a cost of next best alternative. So when you are having one resource, how best you can use it, that depends on the person. Suppose I have given the last class this example as on that. When we are talking about one best alternative, you are losing the other alternative. Whatever the benefit that you lost because of that alternative, that is called as opportunity cost. Second one, incremental principle. So how much will be the extra cost of factoring another extra quantity that is to be identified, that is called as incremental principle. Then discounting principle. As I told you in the previous class, it is to be identified that money value is not constant. Today's rupee is not equal to tomorrow's rupee, and how best you can use today's rupee, that is more important issue. So when if you are receiving 100 rupees after 5 years, that is not equivalent to today's 100 rupees, in such a way that why we say that whatever the quantity that we can purchase with the 100 rupees now, that is much higher than what is the quantity that we can buy after 5 years with that same 100 rupees. This principle is called as discounting principle. This concept is already explained in the previous class. With the help of that formula to calculate the present value of the 1 rupee, that is 1 by 1 plus r to the power of n formula that we use, and we will calculate the present value factor. And by multiplying the future cash flows with the help of the present value factor, we will take a decision whether to accept a proposal or to reject the proposal. Then concept of time perspective. Every business decision must be taken into, must be understand, must be considered in two aspects. One is short term, other is a long term perspective. What is the short term perspective? What are the basic benefits that you are able to get now? What are the future benefits that can be? For this, I have given an example that when you are taking a price increase decision, what is the effect of the price increase on the demand in the short run as well as in the long run? Like that, you have to identify both. A decision must be studied with respect to the present phenomena and also to the future phenomena. This aspect is to be understood in this. So with this, we have successfully completed, that is unit number one, and then we will proceed to the already in the previous classes, two classes that we have understood about these aspects. Then theory of demand. When you are talking about unit number four, that is block two. In this particular block, we are going with the unit number four. So this is basically block two, unit number four. This is theory of demand. When we are talking about theory of demand, so utility, satisfaction, and what are the various types of utility, all this you have to understand before going to the demand concept. What is actually the meaning of demand is that simply we say that yes, demand is there for this product, demand is not there for this product, like that we say. But how it can be decided? What is the meaning of demand actually? What is exactly the meaning of demand? These aspects that you have to understand. When you are saying that a desire for the product, a desire for the product, first condition to satisfy or to say that there is a demand for the product, we need to say that there must be a desire for the product. Second one, ability to pay for that. When you want a particular product, there must be a ability for paying out of that. You must be able to pay the price of it. That's called ability to pay. And lastly, willingness to pay. You must be willing to pay out the money for that. Even though you may be having a desire, you may have the money with you, but if you are not willing to pay that money to the outsider, then the product is set to that it is not having the demand from this customer at that moment of time. So to understand about this one, when you are talking about the concept of demand, actually three conditions are to be fulfilled. That is one, desire for the product, ability to pay, and willingness to pay. If three conditions are satisfied for a particular product at a moment of time, then we say that there is a demand for that product at that moment of time and in that particular, from that particular person. So the demand, to say that there is a demand, all the three conditions must be satisfied. Then only we say that there is a demand. And when there will be a demand actually, then wherever there is utility, then only there will be a demand for that. Whenever there is a demand, there will be utility for that. When we are talking about the utility aspect, when there is a utility aspect, what type of utility it is there? When you are talking about utility, when we are talking about utility, when we are talking about the utility, there are various types of utilities are there. Then farm utility, place utility, time utility, and so on. What is the concept of farm utility? Farm utility, FORM, farm utility means converting a particular product into the desired shape. For example, if a wooden log is converted into a table, then it will have utility. Instead of wooden log, you can use it for the purpose. That is called as farm. There is farm utility. When you are talking about place utility, when a particular product are moved from one place to the another, that is considered as a time place utility. A product which is having no use in a particular area, that can be shifted from that particular place to the place where it can be used. So in such a way, a wooden log in a forest has no use, whereas the same wooden log, if it is brought to the city, then it can be converted into a table by providing the utility for that. And lastly, to conclude upon the utility concept, utility is having the time, time utility. So when the product is desired, then only we must be able to give that particular utility. When the product is required, then only it will give utility. In a hot summer, there is no need of a sweater, whereas in the winter, there is a need of sweater. That means this is related to time aspect of that. How best you can use that particular process, that particular product. In a rainy season, in that only we use the raincoat, whereas when there are no rains, the raincoat is not required. So time. At the same time, one more best example, we can say that by keeping or storing the rice for a particular period of time, paddy or rice for a period of time, it increases its value. So that is called as time utility. By storing a particular time period, if you are creating some sort of value, then it is called as time utility. One is place utility, that is shifting from one place to the another. Form utility, changing the shape of the product. Then time utility, the keep the time for a period of, keep the product idle for some period of time, then it is useful. Even wooden log also, if it is kept for a longer period of time, its strength will increase. And rice and paddy, all these are useful for that. Then in such a, when you are, when, hello, hello, no participant, ladies. In the case of demand concept, we have to understand this one in that. Next is concept of demand already, what I told you in this. When the case of, hello, technical support, technical progress and advertisement, channels of fashion and channel of weather, chances of weather, changes in the weather, expectations about the future price, all these things that are considered to be the various determinants of the demand in this. Then all these factors put together will determine the demand for a particular product. Then law of demand. In the case of law of demand, it is already given by Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall is the most famous economist who has given the law of demand concept. In the case of law of demand, it clearly stress that, it states that, then it clearly states that when the price of the product is increasing and the demand for the product always decreases. The price of the product and the demand for the product are inversely proportionate to each other, and then always we have to consider that to have a demand for a particular product or a period of time, the lesser must be the price, higher must be the demand for this particular product. In such a way, we can understand about the law of demand. So, in general sentence, we can say that the greater the amount to be sold, the smaller must be the price it is offered for that, and in order to find a purchaser. Hello, hello, hello. Technical people, please. Hello. Technical Hyderabad BRO, technical assistance, please. When we are talking about the law of demand aspect, the greater the amount to be sold, the smaller must be the price and it is offered for the sale. The amount must be lower, the price must be lower to have a demand or the price. And but this demand aspect, that conditions must be applied only in one aspect, that when all other things remains constant. If all other things remain constant, then only the concept of demand will apply. Then, so when all other things means what? What are the changes in the condition? Weather, population, if all are changes, then only the demand for the product. If the person's income increases, automatically he may be willing to buy more amount of quantity even at a higher price. These are the aspects that points that we have to understand. But there are certain exceptions to the law of demand. This is explained in the case of paragraph number 4.11. What are the exceptions to the law of demand? That means where the law exceptions means law of demand does not apply. Where the law of demand does not apply. So first aspect is that is known as Giffen's paradox. Giffen's paradox. Giffen. Giffen apostrophe S. Giffen's paradox. What actually this Giffen's paradox says that, like Robert Giffen, he has made a contribution to the law of demand in stating that he has identified a separate same phenomena in Britain where the price of bread and meat put together he studied. When the price of the meat is increasing, actually the demand for the meat should come down, whereas people stopped buying the bread and they contributed towards the meat. That means, in simple language, for our understanding, we can say that when two products are used put together, or if some product is a necessity or some product is compulsory for the consumption, then in such a case, people will buy the same quantity by reducing the expenditure on other product. That is also very common in our natural life also. So whenever the product is a compulsory product, even the price of the product is increasing, then definitely we will reduce the consumption of another product. And we will reduce the consumption of another product, and we will buy the same quantity of the product whichever is earlier there. This process or this concept is known as a Giffen's paradox. When we are talking about this concept, Giffen's paradox, we can understand it very easily that if you have no money with you, definitely you will spend on necessities only, and all other things, whenever it is a various other entertainment and all, they will reduce. We will reduce, and we will put that amount of income on the necessary commodity, and the way even though the price of that particular necessity commodity increases. So we can't reduce the consumption of rice, petrol, etc., which are necessary. This concept is applied as a case of the Giffen's paradox. Then second aspect is that second exception to that is called as a second exception is basically understanding that prestige goods, some types of goods which are purchased only for the concept of prestige. Prestige means actually to show their richness, then we will buy that type of products. Say, for example, diamonds are there. So, when if the diamonds are very, very precious metals and they are purchased only for the high price, and they are considered as a prestige symbol, and they are considered as a, because they are prestige symbol at a high price only they are purchased. If everybody is purchasing a diamond, then definitely the demand from that customer, the demand for the diamonds will definitely not be there. Then another third aspect is that speculation. 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 What is the meaning of speculation? With a buying a product with an intention to sell at a higher price. Buying a product with an intention to sell at a higher price. So when we are talking about the speculation aspect, speculation aspect, this is normally the case of precious metals like gold, silver, etc. And then in case of share market, this is very, very happen. So when the price of a particular share is increasing gradually, people feel that the price will further increase and they can sell at a higher price by buying it at a lower price now. If the price increases further, they will be tempted to buy more. If the price increases further, again they will buy with an intention that, with the feeling that the price will further and further increase and they can sell that particular product or a share at a higher and higher price. So speculation basically is the phenomena purchasing the product, purchasing the product at a low price and selling it at a high price. This is possible in case of shares, etc. Then illusion, last one, illusion. What is illusion? Illusion means always people will feel that high quality products are costly or high priced products are high quality in nature. When you say a product price is higher, then people will feel that this product is very high priced, that means it is high quality. They will fight and they will prefer a high priced product only, assuming that there is high quality for that particular product. But even though it may be somewhat may be reasonable, but in all times it is not correct. But all times it is not correct. Sometimes even a low priced product is also high quality. Even sometimes high priced product is also not a qualitative one. So these are four are expectations of the future market prices. All these things are considered to be exceptions to the law of demand. Let us understand about this one. Law of demand basically states that when all other things remains constant, if the price increases, demand decreases. If the price decreases, demand increases. Hence, price and demand are inversely proportionate to each other. That is condition. Then exceptions to the law of demand. Giffen's paradox I have explained. So in case of necessary commodities, even the price increase is there, the people will start consuming or stop buying the other product and they will continue with the same quantity of necessary commodity. That is called as Giffen's paradox. It is given in the name of Robert Giffen, who has made an analysis in the Great Britain by studying a comparison between the prices of bread and meat. Then prestige goods, the goods which are purchased at a high price only to show their prestige symbol, that is called as prestige goods. In this case also demand law of demand does not apply. In the case of speculation, when the prices are increasing, people with an imagination that the price will further and further increase, then automatically they will feel that they will buy more and more and they can sell at a higher and higher price. If the price started falling, then they will stop buying that particular product. This is concept of speculation, which is against to the law of demand. Then lastly, illusion I have explained. People with an intention that the product price, the people with an intention that the price of the product is higher, the quantity of the quantity of the the quality of the product is higher and higher. This concept is considered to be this concept is said to be law of demand and exceptions to the law of demand. And then we can go for the next aspect in that, that is known as concept of consumer surplus in the page number 4.12. It is given. This is the most important aspect in that. Concept of consumer surplus. Concept of consumer surplus. What exactly the concept of consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is that when you are paying some amount of money, whatever the utility that you are getting from that is more, then it is called as your surplus. Consumer surplus is more amount of satisfaction if you derive than the amount of price paid for that particular product, then this is known as consumer surplus. When you are how you can calculate this consumer surplus, that is called a total utility what you have derived minus the amount of money spent by you, that is considered as a consumer surplus. So in case of a simple items, this will apply. For example, a salt packet, which is a daily necessity commodity, newspaper. So in such a case, you will derive more amount of satisfaction than whatever the price paid by you. So if a newspaper does not come in the morning, if the milk packet does not come in the morning, definitely we will feel a lot of dissatisfaction. So in such a way, whatever the price we are paying for that, we feel it as a negligible, and then whatever the amount of satisfaction that you are getting out of that, that is more and more. In this case, the total utility derived by the purchase of the product, if it is more and the amount paid by you for that particular product is lower, then it is called as a consumer surplus. So in this case of consumer surplus, we assume that there is a fixed relationship between the utility and satisfaction. This is graphically also explained in the case of the textbook. In the graph, in the case of this one, on the x-axis quantity demanded, on the y-axis price, and if we make a comparison about the price paid for it and whatever the utility that you are derived, then in such a case you can derive the consumer surplus. Then with that, the first unit number 4 is complete, and then we proceed to the yes next aspect in the last one, in the unit number 5. In the unit number 5, in the unit number 4, the most important aspect what we have discussed is that is called as demand analysis or demand decision. So then what is law of demand, what are exceptions to the law of demand, and consumer surplus we have discussed. So then coming to the other aspect, that is unit number 5. When we are talking about unit number 5, elasticity of demand, elasticity of demand. So actually, what is the meaning of elasticity? How this actually, this is a, how this concept of elasticity is applicable to the demand, that we will learn in this particular lesson. What is the meaning of elasticity actually? Elasticity, when we are talking about, if we apply a force, if we apply a force, there will be a change in the size of the product. If we apply a force on the rubber band, then its size will increase. If you don't apply the force on the rubber band, definitely it will come back to its original size. That is elasticity. If you apply the force, there will be a change. Even you press it, then it will become lower size. If you release the pressure, automatically it will come back to the original size. That means because of there is a quantifiable change in the size of the product with the pressure what you are making out. The same concept is applied on the demand aspect also by explaining the concept of price. What is the price elasticity? There are three types of elasticities. What is the impact of a particular determinant factor on the quantity demanded? Already we studied that there are so many determinants of the demand. Out of that, price, income, price of other commodities, these are the various determinants of the demand. So what is the impact of each determinant factor on the demand, that we have to understand? What is the impact of price on the demand? Price change in the demand. What is the change in the income? What is the impact of change in the income on the demand? What is the impact of change in the price of another commodities, that is also considered on the demand? These are three types of elasticities we discuss. That is, one is price elasticity, second one is income elasticity, third one is cross elasticity, cross elasticity of demand. When we are talking about, first of all, elasticity of demand, that is given in the paragraph number 5.2, meaning of elasticity, proportionate change in the quantity demanded with a proportionate change in the determinant of the demand. So we repeat, elasticity is equal to percentage change in the quantity demanded by percentage change in the determinant factor. So that is considered as elasticity. So this is also called as proportionate change in the quantity demanded to proportionate change in the price. So change in the quantity to change in the price. So here, as this is one. So price elasticity of demand is studied in this. What is the proportion? What is price elasticity of demand? What is the impact of price change on the quantity demanded is studied with respect to the price elasticity of demand. So percentage change in the quantity demanded by percentage change in the price of the commodity. If you subtract, if you make it as a ratio, then it is called as elasticity of demand. So elasticity, price elasticity is equal to percentage change in the quantity demanded by percentage change in the price of a particular commodity, that we have to understand. So what to understand that one? With what percentage of change in the price, how much change in the quantity of demanded that is changing. So in simple language, what is the change in the quantity demanded with the change in the price of the commodity? If we express as a ratio, then it is called as price elasticity. But always remember, price elasticity demand is always inversely proportionate to each other, because price and quantity demanded are inversely proportionate to each other. So as price and quantity demanded are inversely proportional, in the same way, the price elasticity is also always negative. that negativity always minus value. Negativity means minus value. What this minus value represents that whenever minus value, that means there is inversely proportionate to each other. This aspect that we have to understand. When we are talking about price elasticity of demand, there are five types of price elasticity of demand is considered. One is perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly elastic demand, that means perfectly elastic demand. In the case of perfectly elastic demand, what we normally understand is that even the slight raise in the price that causes the demand to be totally fall to the zero. Perfectly elastic. That's all. That means when there is the smallest change in the price of the commodity, the quantity demand becomes zero, then this is called as perfectly elastic. Actually, in this case, the price change is there, that is, quantity demand will become zero. That means only at a specific price we can sell any quantity, that is called as perfect elasticity. But this type of aspects does not be there in the natural life. So every product will have demand even at 1 rupee or of this 1 lakh rupee. So there is always a demand. This perfectly elasticity is a myth in the real life. So perfectly elasticity basically tells that only at one single price we can sell any quantity. If the price is there is a change in the price, the quantity demanded will become zero. If any of such situation, that is called as perfectly elastic. In the case of this one, the demand curve is always parallel to x-axis. That is, demand line is parallel to x-axis. If we say that demand line d1 to d2 x-axis, that is perfectly elastic. Then perfectly inelastic demand, opposite of perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic demand. In case of perfectly inelastic demand, what you have to understand is that you can sell only a specific quantity irrespective of the price. Whatever may be the price, you can sell the same quantity. I can sell 10 units, whether the price is 1 rupee or the price is 20 rupees or the price is 100 rupees. I can sell only 10 units. If such a situation is there, that is called as perfectly inelastic demand. In this case, the quantity demanded is fixed, whereas price is constantly varying. In this case, elasticity of demand is, say, zero. Why it will be elasticity is zero? The Q2 minus Q, that is quantity demanded, change is not there in that. There is a change in the price, that is denominator is changing, but numerator is not changing. In this case, perfectly inelastic demand. In the case of this one, this is what happens. Then the third case is that unitary elastic demand. It refers to a situation where the given proportionate change in the price is equivalent to the proportionate change in the quantity demanded. Both the change in the price and change in the quantity demanded, both are same, then it is called as a unitary elasticity of demand. So if proportionate change in the price and proportionate change in the quantity demanded both are same, then in such a case it is considered as a unit elasticity of demand. So this is the third model. In this case, the demand curve is always sloping downwards. Then in the first one, it is parallel to x-axis. In the second one, it is parallel to y-axis. In the third category, demand curve is sloping downwards. So fourth aspect is that when we are talking about the fourth one, relatively elastic demand. Relatively elastic demand. In the case of relatively elastic demand, proportionate change in the price of the commodity is accompanied by the larger proportionate change in the quantity demanded. That means proportionate change in the quantity demanded is more. Then the proportionate change in the price is lesser. If a smaller amount of price change is giving a greater amount of quantity demanded change, then it is called as relatively elastic demand. So to understand that one, proportionate change in the quantity demanded is larger and proportionate change in the price is lower. If this is happening, then it is called as relatively elastic demand. Then lastly, relatively inelastic demand. It is a situation where the change in the price of the commodity is proportionate change in the quantity demanded. In the case of relative elasticity, proportionate change in the quantity demanded is larger. Price change is lower. This is the opposite side, relatively inelastic demand. It is a situation where substantial change in the price of the commodity is accompanied by a smaller proportionate change in the quantity demanded. So if the proportionate change in the price is more and proportionate change in the quantity demanded is lesser, then it is called as relatively inelastic demand. Relatively inelastic demand. In case of relatively elastic demand, proportionate change in the quantity demanded is more and change in the price is lower. But in case of relatively inelastic demand, proportionate change in the quantity demanded is lower and the proportionate change in the price is more. These are the important aspects in relation to price elasticity of demand. Then all these aspects we can understand. And with this, in the from the beginning of the class, we have studied about the determinants of the demand concept. What is demand? What are the types of demand? And what is the characteristic nature of the demand we have studied? What are the determinants of demand we have studied? Demand is basically a desire for the product backed by willingness to pay and ability to pay. Then we have studied about what is utility factor, because utility is the basic important area which is giving the raise to the demand. Without the utility, there is no demand for any product. We can understand that there are three types of utilities. One is form utility, place utility, time utility. Form utility basically talks about changing the form of the product. Place utility, changing place. Time utility, keeping the product for a longer period of time. Then after that, what is law of demand? That is proposed. That law of demand clearly states that when all other things remain constant, when the price increases, demand decreases. When price decreases, demand increases. This is given by Alfred Marshall. So the exceptions are given for this. The various exceptions are given. So that is Giffen's paradox. Then second aspect is that one is Giffen's aspect. Giffen's paradox is given. Second aspect, that is prestige goods, speculation, and lastly illusion. These four are given as exceptions to the law of demand. After the law of demand, we have given elaborate discussion about the elasticity of demand. So what is price of elasticity of demand? Proportionate change in the quantity demanded to the proportionate change in the one of the determinant is called as one of the determinant is known as the elasticity concept. And again, elasticity is measured with respect to three aspects. One is price elasticity, income elasticity, cross elasticity. Price elasticity basically talks about the proportionate change in the quantity demanded to the proportionate change in the price. Then it is considered as price elasticity. All the five types of price elasticity aspects are considered. That is one, price elasticity, perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, then unit elasticity, relative elasticity, relatively inelastic. These aspects that we have considered in this, and the next class tomorrow we will discuss on income elasticity and cross elasticity. All the best. Bye. Thank you.